We're talking about a career setback. A career setback for one lawyer.
On the Howard front, I think there's a way to get Sandpiper settled and leave him standing. Bruised maybe, but still standing.
Why go through this elaborate plot just to burn me to the ground?
Burn you to the ground? Howard, come on. You'll be fine. You always land on your feet. We didn't miss anything.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Fair is foul, and foul is fair.
In Albuquerque. I'm Courtney. You're watching Courtney's Reviews. Join me for my breakdown of Season 6, Episode 7, Plan and Execution. I was both surprised and quite disheartened that quite a few of my predictions have come true. Even if they're successful with their scheme that they're trying to pull off, even if that works out, it's probably not going to end well for them, right? So there's, I think, the possibility that Howard gets seriously injured. I have been speculating for a while now that he would reach out to Kim or Jimmy when he got back to Albuquerque for help. I think the conversations that we saw in the last episode between her mom and the store manager,
she's going to wish we called the police.
Might be foreshadowing that they're going to wish they called the police. I think it's going to be about Lalo, because remember, she doesn't tell Jimmy that Lalo is still alive. And when ADA Suzanne Erickson pulls Kim into her office, Kim has an opportunity to tell the truth to Suzanne, right? But she doesn't. She doesn't say anything. The line that her mom says she's going to wish that we called the police might be foreshadowing for how Kim might wish that they'd gone to the ADA. So in that case, I think it's probably going to have something to do with Lalo. And I've been thinking this and saying this for a while. We'll find out. I could be completely off base, but I think these storylines are all going to converge. Like, not just converge, I think they're going to crash into each other. What I didn't have on my bingo card was that Lalo would be the one to kill Howard. All right, so let's get into it.
Don't get lost in the circle of confusion. Can't tell your story if you can't keep things in focus.
Things indeed do come into focus in the mid-season finale. We see Jimmy and Kim's plan come to fruition, Lalo gets Gus on his hook, and Howard takes Jimmy and Kim's bait. We also see a lot of circles, centripetal, and centrifugal forces at play. In my last breakdown, I noted that it is never a good sign when you see things swirl down a drain. You never know what is lurking down there. Plan and Execution opens up on an Albuquerque street where we see the first of many circles. Lalo emerges from out of a manhole. He drives to a truck stop where he takes a shower. Anyone notice the sign that read shower and laundry? A subtle hint to his location. He then takes a quick little power nap in his car. You'll remember from Something Unforgivable, the season 5 finale, that he tells Nacho that he never sleeps very much. He goes back into his hidey hole down the storm drain like Pennywise the Clown, and we see him peering out of the gutter to Gus's laundry across the street. An ominous opening indeed. I kept expecting him to say, "We all float down here, Jimmy. We all float." We pick up right where we left off at the end of episode 6, the morning of D-Day, which happens to be June 18th. If that number seems familiar to you, it's because 618 was the number on Howard's valet tag in Rockin' Hard Place. Lenny, the actor who plays Judge Casimiro, is reciting lines from the play Angels in America when Jimmy comes pulling up. Things move fast on the Kim and Jimmy front as they race against the clock to reshoot before the Sandpiper mediation. The actor agrees, and his shopping carts roll into a parked car. Objects in motion stay in motion. Movement, especially circular movement, is big in this episode. You might say that what goes around comes around. Up until this point, Kim and Jimmy have taken their time setting up their plan.
It has to be paced right.
Pacing is important. The camera guy later reminds them.
Can't rush the process.
As long as there's an image, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Can't rush the process.
But they do rush the process, and though they pull off their plan, there are devastating consequences. Things spiral out of control. After she arrives at the scene with supplies, Jimmy tells Kim to go and she could still make the lunch, but she says this is where she needs to be. She has finally decided what she wants. In this dizzying sequence, Kim directs the scene. She literally calls the shots. She has come such a long way from the Kim Wexler who was once horrified that Jimmy would fabricate evidence in Season 2's Cobbler. The camera spinning around them perhaps foreshadows the silencer Lalo will use in the explosive final scene. This scene, with Howard and Carrie, lets us know that spinning can silence an explosion.
Something about the centrifugal force. Pulls the bubbles from the inside of the can, stops it from exploding.
As I predicted, the PI was working for them and delivers the photos with the drug applied to them so that Howard will absorb it through his hands. The reveal of how they hired the PI and made the switch reminded me of the stunt Jimmy pulled on Chuck when he had Mike go in as a repairman, and when Jimmy switched the numbers for the Mesa Verde branch from 1261 to 1216. Jimmy reprises a few of his old tricks in this episode, and just as they had devastating consequences for Chuck, so they do for Howard. Before the mediation meeting, Howard meets with Irene Landry, and Thomas Schnauz threw in a heck of a red herring here, I think. He has Howard rub his fingers to show that the stuff is still on his fingers, and then we see Howard touch her coffee cup, and he touches her wheelchair, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I was thinking that something bad might happen to Miss Landry if she got that stuff on her. I thought maybe she would be, the canary in the coal mine, but fortunately that didn't happen. The plan goes exactly as predicted. Howard sees the judge come in and accuses him of being compromised. When Julie retrieves the photos from Howard's desk, they've been swapped out with photos of Jimmy handing the sound guy a frisbee. Kim and Jimmy listen in with devilish glee as Howard makes a fool of himself. This scene recalls Season 2, Episode 9, when Chuck is humiliated in front of the court, Kevin, and Paige.
You are mistaken, and with all due respect, you're muddying the waters here.
Muddying the water. And just as how Cliff has his doubts about Howard, Howard had his doubts about Chuck. But Howard is hip to Jimmy's tricks now. But it doesn't matter. It's too late.
It doesn't matter. Rich went back to the previous offer. I'm going to recommend to the class that we take it.
No. No way.
Whatever the truth is, we'll never get back to where we were before mediation. We have to settle.
I'm lead attorney, and I won't sanction that decision.
Then I'm obligated to go to the partners and explain everything I've seen. All of it.
This also calls back to a scene from Season 3's Fall when Howard urges Chuck to retire.
Chuck, there's more to life than this.
That day is far in the future, Howard, and I don't appreciate the suggestion.
What if it's not a suggestion?
Meaning?
Meaning if enough people tell you that you're drunk, maybe it's time to sit down.
You want me to retire over this? The insurance?
It's not just the insurance. That's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Howard's final scene in the HHM boardroom has a lot of echoes of Chuck's last scene in the HHM boardroom. Howard, in trying to persuade Chuck to step down, tells him that there is more to life. Howard says this exact same thing to Carrie.
Charles McGill. The M in HHM. Greatest legal mind I ever knew.
Wow. I hope someone says that about me someday.
Well, maybe there are more important things.
Perhaps standing before the portrait of Chuck, not only the ghost of his memory, but the ghost of how Howard treated him in that scene still haunts him. Now, Howard absolutely does not deserve what Jimmy and Kim are doing to him, any more than Chuck deserved it. But in thinking of the circular movement of this episode, I couldn't help but think of this as being some sort of perverse karma. If our characters do incur karma, These two getting it on while Howard's life falls apart have a lot of debt to pay. Later, when Howard confronts them in the apartment, he calls them Leopold and Loeb. They were two wealthy students at the University of Chicago who thought themselves so intellectually superior to others that it made them immune to consequences. To test this theory, they perpetrated acts of petty theft and vandalism. They broke into a frat house at the University of Michigan, where they stole a bunch of stuff. This emboldened them, and they progressed on to more serious crimes. And they came up with this plan to execute a perfect crime that would garner public attention and confirm their self-perceived status as supermen. They kidnapped and murdered a 14-year-old boy. They did it for their own amusement and just to see if they could get away with it.
I thought you did it for the money, but now it's so clear. Screw the money. You did it for fun. You get off on it. You're like Leopold and Loeb.
Howard's comment that Jimmy and Kim do the things that they do because they get off on it was spot on. And though they do not plan his murder, they're culpable. With Howard's blood sprayed across the painting on the other side of their scheme board, the blood is on their hands. There's a lot more I wanted to say about this final scene, but before I do, there are a couple other points I wanted to go over. This shot of Howard racing up the spiral staircase at HHM reminded me of Hitchcock's Vertigo, which is another story about deception and doubles. And also the film that Jimmy and Kim are watching at the end, Born Yesterday, is another one that adds some really interesting context to our understanding of what's happening. I'm thinking of doing a whole separate video on all of the references to films, books, music in this season of Better Call Saul. I don't think that we could say that the plot of Better Call Saul is going to follow the plot of any one of these texts, but they certainly add some more dimension to it. Get some interesting plot development on the Gus and Lalo front. So in this little cat and mouse game that they're playing, I wonder if that makes Lalo the mouse because he's like hiding in the storm drain. He makes this hilarious video for Eladio where he's showing him the laundry across the street and talking about how, this is what Fring is up to, the mother of all meth labs that he's building. And once he shuts that off, he calls Hector and then he hears the on the line, which means it's been bugged, and he hangs up. He gets really upset. He smashes his chair into the wall, and then he thinks better of it. He calls Hector and he misdirects him, right? He tells him he hasn't found any proof and he's going to go back to plan A, which deeply upsets Hector. He's dinging his bell like crazy. And then after that, Lalo is standing there contemplating and you see La Cucaracha. And I'm sure many of you probably recall the scene from season 5 in Bagman when Kim goes to see Lalo in jail and he tells her, your man is like La Cucaracha, born survivor. So just like seeing the spice curls triggered a realization or an epiphany for Gus, seeing the cockroach does the same for Lalo. And so I immediately, when I saw that, recognized it, and I knew that meant he was going to see them. And I've been predicting that he would anyway. So when Jimmy and Kim are on the couch and the door knocks, I thought it was Lalo. I was not expecting Howard, and my heart sank when I saw it was Howard because I knew Lalo was on his way. Gus is out doing a charity event when Mike pulls him aside to let him know about the phone call they intercepted, because they had the line tapped, and they have a discussion about how they need to have a home court advantage. And Mike tells Gus that he's pulled all of his men off of the low-profile targets to put them on Gus. So now we know that no one's watching Jimmy or Kim. The PI that Howard hired was bogus. He was never a real PI. And now Mike's guys are no longer watching their backs. The final scene. Man, this final scene. It is such an excellent scene. I mean, in terms of like the excellence of Howard's speech is just beautiful. His curse on them And oh man, it's just so good and so devastating. And even though I knew it was coming, I gasped. I gasped. And I think I just sat there for a good, I don't know, a good beat after the show ended and the credits started rolling. It just really took my breath away. I'm sure a few of you have noticed the parallels to Ozymandias from Breaking Bad, the third to last episode when Hank dies. And it's very similar, right? So, like, even though Walt doesn't pull the trigger himself, Uncle Jack does. It is Walt's actions that lead ultimately to Hank's demise. It's Walt's actions that lead Hank to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Same thing happens here. So even though Jimmy and Kim don't pull the trigger, Lalo pulls the trigger. This is a consequence of their actions. Howard came to confront them because of what they did. If they hadn't done this scheme on Howard, or if Kim had just gone to her Jackson Mercer lunch, if they'd waited one day, Howard would still be alive. And this line of dialogue.
But you? Far from it. You two. You two are soulless. Jimmy, you can't help yourself. Chuck knew it. You were born that way. But you, one of the smartest and most promising human beings I've ever known. And this is the life you choose.
Reminds me so much of some of Hank's final words.
What? You want me to beg? You're the smartest guy I ever met. And you're too stupid to see. He made up his mind 10 minutes ago.
And as I'm sure a few of you picked up on all my Macbeth references, we see the candle flicker when the door opens. And we know Lalo steps in. And you know the rest. You saw the episode. I'm not going to show the clip of what happens to poor Howard. And this was a gut punch. Nacho was hard. This was shocking. Shocking insofar that Howard really didn't deserve it. Not that Nacho deserved what happened to him. He really didn't. But at least Nacho got to be the arbiter of his own decisions here, whereas Howard was just wrong place, wrong time. And I said this in my last video. I think Howard, maybe in this case, is serving more as a plot device. And it's the harm that Kim and Jimmy are doing to him and will do to him that ultimately corrodes their souls. So if he gets seriously injured or dies, it will not just be the death of Howard Hamlin. It would be the death of whatever good is still in these two characters, right? Perhaps the death of their relationship. So as far as what will happen next, it's anyone's guess. I have a lot of ideas. You know, I have a lot of ideas. Some of them are really out there. Some of them I think are feasible, and I won't go over all of them right now. I think I'll do a separate video for that. I'll do a predictions video. So I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. Everyone else, hit that like button, drop me a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.